Welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Michelle Pascoe, and thank you so much for joining me. Each week, I either interview an amazing guest, or perhaps I'm sharing my own insights over the past 3 decades in this amazing industry, as well as being in business. This podcast is for those in the hospitality industry, but it's also so much more than that. It's for someone just like you. Perhaps you're an individual building a business, or you're just starting out building a team, or you have many people that you lead and manage. If that is so, and you are wanting to create an amazing experience for your patrons, your clients, your members, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode. I'm so looking forward to this because this wonderful lady and I this is our third conversation on this podcast over the last 5.5 years. And it's really wonderful to hear about her journey and what we're going to be talking about today. So this is Aurelie Carrion. She is the Executive Manager, Communities for Mounties Group, Associate Insight Exchange, Non-Executive Director of Bayside Women's Shelter, Bonnie Support Services, Southwest Mounties Magic Netball, New South Wales. But a little bit more about Aurelie, the club industry professional who is passionate about community engagement, transformational leadership, and building strong teams and relationships within the industry, with extensive operational management expertise in assisting hospitality venues to optimize their success. Domestic and family violence advocate working closely with the club industry to build on the industry's understanding of and responses to domestic, family, and sexualized violence, including workplace responses and customer client responses, facilitating a lived experience and specialist informed programs within the industry. I met Aurelie, oh, goodness me, it had to be well over a decade ago in her role at the time in management at one of our venues. And it's just been such a lovely journey. So thank you so much, Aurelie, for joining us today. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. Appreciate the opportunity, and it's great to see you as well.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing something together next month, but we'll get to that shortly. I know my listeners are going to be really interested in hearing a little bit about your journey, where it's been. So could you just share, when, as I said, when we first met, you were working in the club industry, then you were at Mounties, then you moved to Inside Exchange, then you came back to Mounties. So and now where you are now in this role, can you just give us a little bit of an overview of, what that journey's been?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. For me, coming back to Mounties after working with Inside Exchange, like I said, I was really blessed to have Dale and the board allow me to take that year off to really follow a passion that I had, which was really looking at educating the industry on domestic and family violence. So came back, I was put into the new role of Executive Manager Community, which was another thing which was amazing for me because I've always loved the community space, and it just seemed to fit in what I had been doing the year prior and steps forward to progression for me. So as I know, and a lot of people do know, the ethos of Mounties Group is to improve the lives of our members. So coming into this role, it was really important for me to really do a deep dive in each of our communities. With our 8 venues, we've got 3 on the northern beaches, 3 on the Central Coast, 2 on the northern beaches, and 3 in Southwest Sydney. So they're really different demographics, really different, clientele and membership. So it was really important to look at each of these and really meet our community groups and look at what we could do for each of them. So it's been an amazing journey this last year. Club Grants is now the last Clap 1 round has just finished, and for the financial year, we've been able to donate $15.1 million in the last donation year. So, and it hasn't been just sort of giving the money away. It's been through some really amazing partnerships and organisations that we've been able to help do the good work, which is what they do. So it's been an amazing journey this last year, very busy journey. Yes. But when you love what you do, it's not work. So I'm very, very lucky to be able to say that.
It is. It is. For my listeners who may not be aware of what the club grants are, can you just tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, so the club grant scheme is a government scheme with the gaming tax every year. If any club earns more than, I think it's $1 million, they are required to pay or put in money into club grants for their local community. So I think we really went above and beyond what we had to. And it's a beautiful system where organisations apply online through the Club Grants portal, through Clubs New South Wales Club Grants portal. They apply, and, we in the LGAs, so each of the LGAs where we have Liverpool, Fairfield, Northern Beaches and Central Coast, and working with councils and community charters, we work out what are the highest priorities depending on each council. Every council will have different priorities, but it's looking at sporting groups, community organisations, outreach, domestic violence, homelessness, all these sorts of organisations that are doing the outreach work. So we're very, very lucky to be able to support these communities. And, we had a club grants presentation today at Central Coast. That's where I just came back from, where we donated $94,000 into the Central Coast community with organisations like the Bikers Hand that provide, goods and services to local charities like foods and products, We Care Connect, who collect reused clothes and repurpose them to systems and services so they can give them to the people they need. Dreams to Live For, that allow elderly people older that are dealing with cancer, their last wishes, almost like Starlight Foundation, but for adults, where they get to grant wishes. And it's really, it's an amazing job that I get to do, and I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, and so diversified, some people see a registered club as being insular. We're just thinking about the members and guests. And yes, that is a priority while they're in our venue. But what you do in other clubs, it's spreading that out to the local community, and then that broader community, and then regional, and right across the state. So it must be so wonderful when you can just see the joy that you bring when, donating that money, and then that they can then provide something to somebody who really needs it. And I think that's what's important. We know that when we donate the money, that it goes to that person who's in need. Yeah, it's not just.
Well, we've built those partnerships. Yeah, and we've built those partnerships, so where it's not just donating money and handing it over. We have close relationships with these charities, and for example, one in Southwest Sydney is Zen Tea Lounge Foundation, and we hold their Christmas parties, and they come. It's a partnership. It's no longer just a donation, grant, check, handover. It's we are working together for the community and with the community. Yeah.
Which is wonderful. Now, look, you touched on there, Aurelie, that you also, work in that domestic violence space, and that's something we're certainly going to be talking a little bit more about on this episode. But what is behind that passion of yours? Because, you're there, you're getting excited about helping all these different organizations, but what is it about domestic violence that really brings, really started this journey for you?
Yeah, it was my own personal experience, I think, that drove me to look at our industry and how we could improve our responses. I'm quite open about it. 16 years I was in the relationship, and throughout that whole time I was working in clubs. So I knew the opportunity to improve our responses was there and was completely wide open. No one needs to do it alone. And we have a huge workforce in the industry. So 50% of that will be female. We know 1 in 4 experience violence. So I just knew that there were women in clubs today experiencing violence, but it wasn't safe to tell anybody just yet. So we know that the numbers of the death rates for intimate partner homicide are huge at the moment. We're at 59, I think, and we're only in week 30, maybe 6. I haven't got the right numbers, but it is more than 1 woman a week at the moment. And, these are just the women who are murdered, right?
Yes.
We don't know the half. What about the women who aren't telling anybody? Because we know that 50% of women who experience violence don't tell anybody. Some of them are silent because it's not safe, and some of them are silenced. So it's we know the numbers of the women who have been murdered, but what about the other side of that, where women are currently today experiencing violence? So my passion was, we can't change the world, but we can change one club at a time or one person at a time. And that was the aim. It was to I guess, open our eyes to the role that we as a workplace and as an industry play in supporting those who are experiencing violence. And when we do that, we then create a domino effect where if we can get to somebody before they get to crisis stage while they're working out clubs, we can stop that from getting to crisis stage and then from becoming another statistic. So, yeah, that was definitely the drive for me.
Yeah. And it's just been amazing the momentum that has come about just from this idea that you had and, going through that lived experience, having the confidence to share that. And, because I'm sure shame is something for many of those women, because it's just not a stereotypical, well, that's the group that suffer from this. It's across all economies of scale, isn't it? It doesn't matter what suburb they live in or whether they're in the top 1% of wealth or wherever you are on that scale. It's important for them to know that it's not shameful. It's about speaking up and it's about speaking out. So both in the workplace, the programs that you've been delivering, are they just being solely for those that are in those venues, or is it also for the community?
Yeah, so with Mounties, when I came back after working with Inside Exchange, we created a domestic family violence action plan. So there were certain pillars that we started. So it was starting by supporting our workforce with leave policies, support options, creating that culture of safety. Then it was looking at education piece. Let's educate the board, from the board to the CEO, to the C-suite, to the managers, to the person on the floor. Everybody did a little bit of a training session so they understood what the different forms of violence was, what it was like for a person who was experiencing violence, how the safety of maybe, how dangerous it was for someone to leave, and what we could do to support them. And then from that, we aligned with our community organisations, our DV sector in each of our LGAs, and then aligned with shelters and outreach services. So if someone did disclose that was in the workforce, we had a support pathway in place that would lead to the outreach work. And then once we did all that, then we extended that support to our community and our members. So we had access to Esker bags across all of our venues, which are little escape bags that people can come and take when they're fleeing. We have information with resources. We held information workshops and luncheons to drive that awareness through. We've got posters on the back of toilets, or we've got QR codes around the venue that they can access information, because they might not want to tell anybody, but they might want to learn more. So there's that ability to be able to access information without having to disclose what's happening. And then our website also has access to information and support. So, and yeah, it's definitely worked, because we've had lots of disclosures within our internal workforce, but we've had members come, take Esker bags, but also say they needed help, and we've been able to support them through outreach work. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Do they have to be a member of your club?
No, absolutely not. Our members and guests, anybody, we are willing to help anybody, because we're just another access point, right? We know that 8 out of 10 people who experience violence do not go to the police.
Yeah.
And they might not go to systems and services for many reasons. When people do disclose, the people they're going to disclose to are family members and friends first, or their workplaces, or the businesses that they visit. So it's about meeting people where they're at, really, and giving them access to resources at every single one of those stages.
Yes, yeah. And what sort of information are you sharing within the venue? So, if somebody's there, they're there and they know what's happening in their life, but they're not aware of what you're doing in Mounties. How are you letting them know that it's not, I know you're saying, behind the toilet doors and things like that. Are there opportunities, or do some of the team members feel confident at perhaps approaching somebody, not in official capacity, but if it's a regular person that they see quite often, they can just notice a change in difference? Do you encourage that, or is it more of making perhaps yourself aware, or other senior managers to have that conversation as well, or do you just wait for them to come to you?
All our managers have been through some training, so they know how to start the conversation. They can see the signs, but they'll always be guided by victim survivors. Our ethos, or what we like to do, is follow Inside Exchange, follow my lead. So we're led by the victim survivor. They might say, are you okay? They might ask some questions. Are you safe? Is there anything you'd like me to know? But they will always be led by the person. So they do have the cues to ask the right questions. They know how to find support for that particular person, but it's almost just even planting the seed. Hey, is everything okay? You just know I'm here. We've got these things that we're doing here at Mounties that can support you. If you feel the need, just reach out to us. So yeah.
So what's the impact been on the team then across your venues? Going through this training, learning a little bit more about it themselves, perhaps even identifying in some ways that it is them. How do you think, what's been that impact? How are they now coming to work? How are they now showing up amongst the team and amongst the members and guests?
Yeah, there's been many moments where, we've just gone, wow, like there is a culture of safety to have had internally within our workforce 40 plus disclosures of abuse, whether that be historical or current. To me, it doesn't matter. It's that culture of safety where people feel safe to say, hey, I'm not okay, I need help. And then the historical disclosures are, I've been there, I've been through that, and they've put their hands up to become the DV champions. So we have DV champions across each of our LGAs. So if someone does disclose, they've been trained with the extra tools to be able to, help them along their journey. And, to see someone with historical abuse, to empower them to become a DV champion, to support somebody else in their workforce that is now dealing with what we did in the past. It's really beautiful. And then on the flip side, to see the staff who are in it right now. And, like I said, we will meet everybody where they're at, whether that be somebody who is in it, they're not ready to leave and they're going to stay there, and that's okay. We'll meet you there. We'll be there for you. We've sat with them, we've cried with them, but we're like, whenever you're ready, we're ready. But right now, if you can't leave and you want to stay, we're here. We'll support you, So there's been those moments. And then, there's been other moments where staff manager that was trained saw the signs, was like, wow, that's not right. Asked this particular person, are you okay? She disclosed, no, I'm not okay. We were able to find her an outreach support worker. She's now safe. She's free from violence. And, when she rang me and she said, I just didn't know that clubs could do this for me. Yeah. That's those moments where you go, wow, it works. Like you have a vision in your head, you know what you need to do, you do it. And then to see it come to life and see that there's somebody now that's in a place safe and is free from violence, and she's still working and she comes to work every day and she's back to a happy, bubbly self. But because that staff member was trained, saw the signs and knew the pathways, how to approach her, how to recognize, how to respond and how to refer, it's been beautiful to watch.
It's knowing the signs but without judgment, isn't it, Aurelie? I think that's the thing. It's how, and having this training that that you're rolling out there across your community there of all the venues, it's being able to see the signs but not judging people for it, and not just assuming what you think. It's asking those questions, as you were saying before, letting them lead, having those discussions. But we've also chatted before, Aurelie, in our own private conversations, that when you've been rolling this out across the workplace, there are victims there, but there's also perpetrators. So how has that come across? Have you found also that perpetrators have put their hand up going, look, I need help?
Yeah, so obviously where there's one side, there's the other. Yes. And it's important that we, within our workplace policies and procedures, that we don't condone the violence and we don't allow people to use our product and services for violence. Historically, most perpetrators or people who use violence won't come forward. So we haven't had a lot of that. But what we have had are men and people who want to be part of the solution. So part of my training and part of what we've done is, a key highlight is that men are the biggest killer of women in intimate partner homicide. It is facts, but men are also the biggest killer of themselves through suicide. So where we lose 9, they say 1 woman every week, now 1 woman every 4.5 days, we lose 9 people every day to suicide, and 7 are men.
Yeah.
So there is something, it's a bigger piece than this, but, there is something there. Why are they doing that? Why are men killing themselves at the highest rate, but also killing the people that they love at the highest rate? So that's what came up a lot in the training. And it's about no judgment for the victims, but also holding perpetrators to account. And also, we don't know the backstory. We know that violence isn't right, but we also need to bring men on the journey if we're going to end violence. Yeah.
Look, definitely. And I think, even if they are sitting there and listening, they're becoming more aware of what their actions, how their actions impact on not just that particular victim, but others. And if anything, it may give them that thought process of how to change or what to do differently in a situation, because it would be hard to come forward, because it's the same as mental health in the workplace. Everybody goes, oh, it's fine, you can talk about it, but there's still that stigma. And I'm sure that if somebody came across and said, well, I'm a perpetrator, and certainly not saying that you would have a bias of that, Aurelie, but in some situations there would be that stigma. If I came forward, how would I be perhaps even persecuted in the workplace? So it's a fine line, but I think it's wonderful what you do is you've got a group of people and you're just wanting to get that word out there. It's how they are responding to it internally. That's what's important.
We need to support everybody on their journey, and even if that is men who use violence. So there are behaviour change programs, but it's also we've created this problem through we've done some work with Dave Kramer from Hannah's Small Steps, and there's a continuum of violence, right? So these people don't just become violent and abusive, they are become this way because of what society's told them, the roles of men and women are, and how they see each other. So it's something that we've created, and we need to make sure that together we address this the right way.
And this, when we think of domestic violence or domestic family and sexual violence, we assume it's that physical side. And I know, a few months back, we all got together for the Catalyst of Change that you put together, where we had, 50 CEOs from various large clubs throughout New South Wales, and amazing government, authorities were there as well, and big organisations. Now, this wouldn't happen without the support of Dale Hunt, the CEO of the Mounties Group, and the board. How did you get them on board, literally?
So, what I love about Mounties Group, and definitely the board of directors and our CEO, Dale Hunt, they may not have known why it was important, but they trusted me to know best. So, and they trusted me and followed my lead. I said, look, this is a really important issue. We need to do this. And they were like, they didn't really know the importance of it. Like, a lot of them had not been impacted by it. They didn't think it was like a big issue, but I was telling them, it's a huge issue, and they followed my lead, and they trusted me that it was important. So I was very, very lucky that they were like, yep, okay, do it. If you think it's important, do it. And that ability to have the freedom to go, hey, can we do this? Let's do this. Let me take a year off to go to Inside Exchange, where I learned a lot, right? I went to visit so many clubs. I also immersed myself with the world, in the Inside Exchange world. So I learned a lot, and then to be able to come back and go, I've got all this information in my brain. I need to put it into action. And they were like, okay, we'll do that. And they just allow every step of the way. It was like, and so then the action plan was created. And then I was like, hey, I've got another idea, let's do this. And they're like, okay. And every step of the way, there has been 100% support. And I think because I've had that support and that freedom, that's why it's got so much traction, and we've been able to achieve so much more than what we ever imagined.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'd be the same for them. When you came with them with this idea, they perhaps might have thought, "Oh, yes, this is a nice idea," and then just seeing, how it's grown. You're on Channel 7, most recently as well. So it's going outside of the Mounties group. It's going outside the registered club industry. Now, when we were at that Catalyst of Change, you shared with us, as did some of the other speakers and panelists, that for domestic, family, and sexualized violence, many people think it's just physical. But what you shared on that day, which really surprised, from where I was sitting as a woman in the audience, particularly a lot of the men, we were talking about coercion, the control, the tracking on the phones, the financial control. People just assumed, oh, well, we're going to see it physically, that that had this domestic violence. But can you share a little bit more about that? Because the people that are listening to this podcast, they might be thinking, oh, well, if I don't see it physically, they may have just, it may not be anything important. How can you share that a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Well, before you said like it different, it doesn't matter what status or class you are, domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It affects every single Australian. So, and it's not just physical violence. If anything, you have the scars. Physical violence, you can see the scars, but it's the emotional, the psychological, the systems abuse, the financial, the economic, the coercive control, reproductive control. There are so many different forms, and it all comes down to of power and control. So, you sometimes you can't see it, but it's there, and that's what's been highlighted. We're so used to just, having those visions of the black eyes, but there's so much more underneath that. And if anything, the physical scars are there, you can see it, but sometimes it's the emotional, and, the scar's gone and then it's gone, but sometimes it's the psychological, the emotional, the financial abuse that stays for years, and you continue to suffer from it. You continue to try to recover from that trauma. Yeah.
But, I just found it so interesting, the conversations around those tables where I never thought about it that way, that's what it was. And, it also highlighted perhaps people in that room, and even conversations that you've had with others, through your training, that, what they were going through was actually domestic violence. They've just put it down to, well, maybe that's just what the person was like, but it is that form. So let's get on to what's coming up, because you have got, not only you have put together an amazing program. So after that Catalyst for Change, as we stood there that afternoon, the CEO of Mounties Group, Dale, got up and said literally, well, put your money where your mouth is, guys. And because he does like nailing people to the wall, but holds them accountable, which is great. And he, said, I will pay for the training for all clubs in New South Wales to do this training, to get it out beyond the borders of just what Mounties Group and all those venues that you've visited to. Let's get some training into place. So let's have a discussion about that, because that is coming up on the 29th and 30th of October. Love you to share it. Aurelie?
Yeah. So as I said, my big ideas that I would say, hey, Dale, this is a good idea. I said, hey, Dale, let's go and get 60 of the top 50 to 60 of the top CEOs and get them in a room so we can talk about domestic violence. And then we did that, and it was amazing. And you were there. You saw the collective energy of people going like empowered, that they could do, they could make a difference. And that was palpable. So from that, yes, Dale's like, hey, we're going to commit to this. And we did. And thank you so much. You are a co-builder of this program, and as is Gabrielle Morrissey. So the event is going to be held on Tuesday the 29th and Wednesday the 30th of October, and it is a workshop that's been developed to support specifically club managers to build on their understanding of and responses to domestic and family violence. So essentially, we've got a lot of people booked in. A lot, and it's going to be amazing. They are not just from across New South Wales, it's Queensland, Victoria, ACT,
fantastic.
and there is a lot, and New South Wales as well. So it's a deep immersion. I want people to feel what we felt in that room the other day, that energy of we can make real change. So it'll be a 2-day workshop. And it's specifically for club managers, because this is what we want to do. We want you to meet and hear from the domestic violence experts, understand your role as an employer, as a supervisor, and as a service provider, because we do know that, we provide products and services that can be seen as a main driver of violence. We're going to increase your awareness and understanding about the different forms of violence, like we said, so we can better recognize and respond to somebody who might be experiencing it, and creating a culture and a workplace that is safe. Like, that's key. You have to have that culture of safety for these people to feel safe to disclose. And then, you're going to learn the tools to build your own domestic and family violence action plan and take it back into your venue, so then you can do the work within your community. It's really about empowering people, because from that you'll collaborate with your local organisations, and a lot of people do. It's amazing. And from that, the support pathways are built in place, the partnerships are created. So it's not everybody doing things silo, it's all of us doing it collectively. And that was one of the other things that got brought up at the CEO roundtable, was that a lot of clubs are doing amazing things, but we're all doing it separately. Why don't we come together, because we have more strength and we will have more impact if we do it together. And this is just part of it, So that's very, very exciting that will be happening next month. And thank you, as a co-builder of this program. You are integral to this, and we are very, very excited, because our numbers are huge, Michelle. Our numbers are huge.
Yes. As a side note, my listeners, I was down at a recent conference in Canberra the last few days, and I was walking past Dale, and I said, "Oh, Dale, I've got some of these brochures handing out." And he goes, just stop," in a joking way, but in the sense of, we didn't, when the three of us sat down, when you approached myself and Gabrielle and said, "Look, would you, work with me in putting this program today?" And I must preface this, that honestly, Aurelie, you have done so much, like Gabrielle and I feel like we're just going to show up on the day and tap dance, because you have put so much work into this. But it's going to be amazing 2 days. But the response has been phenomenal. So, even though Dale, Jess, said, stop promoting it, the fact is, this is so important. People are lining up to come to this because they want to be a part of it. No longer do they feel that it's something that, oh, do I really need to be involved? They want to be involved. And honestly, if you hadn't have started this, 3 years ago now, if we look, knowing 4 years ago, even going to Insight, we wouldn't have this. We would have individual venues, yes, that do a little bit for their community, which is absolutely fantastic. I've had Terry Sheen on here a few weeks ago talking about the purple shirts up there where they are. But this is about our whole club industry coming together, where we employ tens of thousands of people. We have millions of members, more millions of those that are guests, that we can get that word out and be there for them. So it's going to be absolutely amazing. Should we promote it even more if you'd like to come? If you'd like to come, will be the wrath of Dale. You can certainly go onto the Mounties website and find out some further information, and of course, contact Aurelie direct. But it's going to be held at the Mounties Club. As you've said, Aurelie, you've already got quite a large group of people that are really not just wanting to show up for 2 days and have a talk fest. They're doing this because they want to go back to their communities and share that knowledge. And I know, the three of us have talked about, well, what's the next step? But we won't say that on air because Dale might be listening.
We haven't asked him yet. That'll be my next big idea.
Hey, big idea.
Got an idea.
We're already packed ready to go.
Yeah, and it's been amazing. Like the collective energy and the want to do more. And I think it's now that we feel empowered, educated, instead of going, I don't want to do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, so that I won't do anything. It's more now, we actually have a really important role to play, and it's understanding that. Like, we've even created a domestic and family violence committee that has over 45 clubs, nearly 50 clubs in that committee. So we had our second meeting last week. So if anyone wants to be involved in this, and this is about building that strategy together of what can we do, what's our framework, how do we all come together to really make an impact for the lives of who we are for. We're a business model that is focused on our community, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. And you know what I think is so lovely is that this is an industry that is male dominated, but they are there helping us, because as women, we cannot do this alone. We need men. And as was said on that Catalyst of Change Day, this is not all men. This is a minority of men who do this. But we need the men to stop the conversations back in the schoolroom, back at university, back at the parties, back at dinner, in the workplace, where we go, hey, that's just not acceptable. And having their support will just make this this journey grow so fast that hopefully we'll start to see the results where the number of deaths starts to reduce, because the numbers in this beautiful country that we live in should not be the numbers that they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's reaching those who can't talk yet, or who aren't silenced. Yeah, it's about reaching them, because they're around us. It's just not safe to tell anybody just yet. So we need to build on that safety for them. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. You know, and for those that are not only just in the regions of the cities, but going out to those regional areas, you know, and I think it's fantastic, because that's where it's important, because they don't have the support and all the structures that we have here in the city. And being in a small regional community, putting your hand up and saying, I need help, I personally feel that would even be harder, because everybody knows everybody in a small community. So we need to get out to those regional venues as well, and those communities where there's already a lot of people, you know, working hard. But with a program like this, it'll just make a big difference in everybody's lives. Thank you.
We're very lucky to have a lot of regional venues coming. So we have accommodation. We're at Liverpool Catholic Club. That is at a reduced rate. So there are lots of regional venues coming, which is amazing. We don't have to do it alone. Together, we can be each other's support people and work together. Thank you.
We can. Thank you so much, Aurelie, for joining me again. So this is the third time we've had this interview, and I just love to put the whole 3 interviews together, just to see, you know, when you first started, it was an idea and, well, how's this going to work? And now it's like, whoa, this is absolutely amazing. So I really appreciate you taking myself and my listeners on this journey with you over the last few years. And once again, if you are interested in attending, it's at Mounties Club on the Tuesday the 29th and the 30th at Mounties in at Mount Pritchard. So we'll see you then. Thanks very much, Aurelie. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on this week's podcast. I do hope there was some moments of aha, insights, tips, and some action steps for you to take in your business or organization. I love being in this industry. So the more that you can get the word out about this podcast, because it really is an honor and a privilege to have so many amazing guests on the podcast, that we need to get the word out there. So please share. A review would be wonderful. And if you'd like to reach out and learn more about what I do and my signature program for the leadership development middle management movement, please have a look at the website, www.michellepascoe.com. Take care, everyone. Bye.